Hello, dear beloveds. Well, today is a very special day, another evolution in the way that we are not only showcasing our third level graduates, our qualified intuitive guides to you and to the world, but to also give an insight, a deeper understanding of the work of the intuitive guide and what it means to walk the path of the third level. So this is the day we begin by giving you free insider access to the tools of the intuitive guide, and every Thursday one of our qualified intuitive guides will go live and offer energy evaluations. Today we have the pleasure of Sinead Carey coming along to do that at midday Australian Eastern Standard Time, which is in about half an hour. What I'm going to do to introduce that, however, is give you a little bit of an insight or a backstory to why I created not only the third level, but more specifically the intuitive intelligence method, which is the energy evaluation process that the third level priestesses become qualified in. The intuitive intelligence method contains within it 9 domains, and the work of the intuitive guide is to conduct an initial energy evaluation of her client and then to work with the client over time to break the addiction to the limiting beliefs, the subconscious fears, the addictions, the habitual behaviors that keep us away from our optimized God nature. So let me break that down for you. When I began working in this world, I've been on my path all of my life, thanks to my first teacher being my mother. But when I began to do this work professionally for myself, I was a shop psychic. I sat in a small room at the back of a crystal shop, and it was incredible training, an incredible apprenticeship into understanding not only the work that I do and how the work works, but to understand human nature. And what I understood from my own experience of doing those many years of being the shop psychic, but also of visiting other psychic readers and intuitive readers, was to understand what worked and what didn't for me. What doesn't work for me in this field of tuning into other people's energy bodies and accessing information is the lack of specificity. The fact of the matter is that there is inherent interconnectedness between all consciousness. So my consciousness is connected to the one mind of God. That table's consciousness is connected to the one mind of God. Every single thing in the cosmos is producing a field that is inherently interconnected. And so when I would go and sit before a psychic or a reader, I would get this sort of scattergun of information directed at me, because what they were doing was simply picking up whatever was randomly popping up in my field and responding to that. Archetypally, people tend to be looking for information around things like money, career, relationships, and to have the big questions of their life answered for them as though there were one path, one finite direction that we were all going in, and that there was someone else outside of us that could possibly have access to that information. I found in my own work as a psychic in the back of that crystal shop that I couldn't tolerate working that way anymore, because what I saw was people coming to me to take the burden of responsibility of their life from them and to give them an answer. So I really could have told them anything. One of two things was going to happen. They were either going to believe what I shared with them, and then they would build a reality based on what I said as though it were God-given truth, or they were going to reject it because it didn't match their subconscious belief about themselves and the world. Either way, it was not helpful. And even if you went to see the world's greatest psychic, the greatest person ever to be able to tune into somebody else's human energy field, what can be determined is only relevant for the moment in time that they're accessing your consciousness. And that's because our belief is what determines our reality, and your beliefs change. So I felt a great weight of responsibility that I was in some way determining people's destinies or interfering with their path by giving them answers. And I also didn't want to just scattergun random information at them from their field, because usually what happens, the subtle anatomy, which is the storehouse of all of our belief, has been neglected and ignored for so long that when it gets an audience, it just wants to pour out. And so the information can be just sort of like a tsunami. And if we don't have a system or a structure for organizing that and for commanding it into coherency, what we can share with our clients is going to be ineffective or even harmful. So I felt a great desire with this strong liberator engineer archetype that I have to do better, and to create a system of evaluating my client's energy field at the time they came to see me, looking specifically for the issue that I knew would be the reason they were experiencing whatever problems they were experiencing. And I can guarantee you, people generally will only go to see an intuitive when they're having troubles, because they want someone to take the burden of responsibility, or they want an answer, and they can't get clarity in themselves because of that confusion. So I created the method as a structured energy evaluation, knowing that the problem was always the same for everyone. It was the same problem for everybody. There's only one problem, and everybody has the problem. And that doesn't matter what their life situation is. In fact, I wouldn't even ask them to share anything, because any information might prejudice my ability to connect to my non-local intuition accurately. And the problem is always fear. Unmet subconscious fear. So the most powerful thing that I can do for my client is to look to their subtle anatomy, their energy body, to find what the dominant fear is at the time they come to sit before me. And what will show itself to me is whatever is most important for me to serve in them. Okay, so if someone else, if another qualified intuitive guide was to sit with them, another subconscious fear might present itself, because it's the alchemy between the evaluator and the client that determines how efficaciously we can move through this fear together. What we do then is we move from identifying the dominant negative self-belief, which is the issue. It doesn't matter if you're coming to me because your boyfriend's been mean to you, or you don't have enough money, or your child is sick, or you have to move house and you don't know where to go. Your presenting problem will always be the same: unmet subconscious fear. And what happens when we meet and release that fear is that your intuitive knowing, your connection to your non-local intuition, which is not the biological forms of intuition, but that connection to the one mind, that infinite unlimited consciousness that contains all time and space, your natural innate connection will open. So you only need me for a limited amount of time. This first session that the intuitive guide will conduct with you is this thorough energetic evaluation. We identify the dominant negative self-belief. Then we identify the shadow archetype. There's 4 shadow archetypes that is telling your story around this fear. Could be the child, the victim, the prostitute, or the saboteur. And they're framing your life. So you're seeing through the lens of that shadow archetype. Everything in your life is being read through one of those 4 shadow archetypes that's dominant around this fear. We then move to looking at your chakra body, and we look to how this fear is interrupting the proper flow of energy in your chakra systems. Specifically, there'll be a main primary chakra, usually one of the 3 lowest survival chakras, but it may also be interrupting the flow of energy in any of the 7 major chakras, and we will attune those chakras by placing our attention there. We're then going to look at where you took on that dominant fear, because that is an opportunity for us to show you that this fear is not new. You've been carrying it potentially for lifetimes, undoubtedly for lifetimes. It's an archetypal, cyclic, karmic pattern that is calling to you now to be released and completed. But because we don't know how to meet fear safely, we're not trained to do that, we instead run away from it. We run into the arms of someone who claims they can do the work for us. But your intuitive guide cannot do the work for you. Your intuitive guide can hold you, scaffold you, and show you how to do the work for yourself. But their job is not to heal you. They cannot do that. Nobody can. In fact, if healing is not self-healing, it will never, ever stick. You might get temporary relief of symptoms, but you will never be healed, not at the level where true, sustainable, lifelong change is possible. So we want to show you that this fear is not new, that it's not about your current life situation, that it is part of your soul's evolution, and that it is being given to you as a gift from God to awaken to the truth of what you are. And when we identify that, we then take you into the Akash, which is simply the library of your soul, in order to reinscribe that event and reclaim that part of you that's been stuck in a loop, playing that event out and again and again and again, which is why it's now manufacturing itself in your current present time reality. We are moving through the realms of time and space to unwed you from the belief that this one little life, this one little issue that you're presenting with is not such a big deal, and to liberate your consciousness to remember that you are infinite. So we do this restoration, this reclamation of this part of you that's been stuck in the loop, playing out that fear, and we restore you to homeostasis. And once we come through the Akash, we bring you into relationship with one of the sacred 13. One of the sacred 13 archetypes that is here to guide you at this time to the next level of your reality, because now the fear has been cleared. You are free enough to hear that non-local intuition, to feel it or to know it, and to be returned to right-mindedness, perhaps for the first time in your life. Be able to witness yourself and to serve yourself. And this archetypal energy shows you what you need. It's the medicine for your soul at that time. And then we finish with the atonement, which is the final blessing. This is an energetic frequency, if you like, that you are held in by the intuitive guide, but you're also holding yourself there, because of course we don't do the work for you. We hold you as we move along that thread of your soul to reunite you with self. And then we give you homework, because of course, if you want to keep working with us, because we've cleared the fear now, but in order to break the addictions, those subconscious addictions to believing in your limits, we might need a little bit more time. It doesn't always happen that that's the case, but it's certainly optimal for you to spend more time deepening into the tools that your intuitive guide possesses in order to truly set you on a path of freedom and fearlessness and that absolute unwavering connection to your non-local intuition. So that's what happens when you work with an intuitive guide. And what I want to do is to give an insight and a behind the scenes understanding. And each Thursday, pretty much until we decide we don't want to do it anymore, which I hope will never come, one of the graduates will share with you an aspect of their tools. So they might focus on evaluating volunteers' shadow archetypes or their sacred archetypes, or looking at the chakra body, or looking at the dominant fear. And each session will be completed with heart congruence, so that everybody is elevated to that state of holiness and wholeness and returned to a place of balance, which is really what we are seeking. That homeostasis is our natural state. So this is truly a communion with your subtle anatomy, and it is a rebalancing. It is a profound experience, and it has miraculous outcomes, but it is certainly not about you sitting passively and receiving. You have to be willing to take that divine responsibility, and to work with an intuitive guide is to say, yes, I am willing to step into my sovereignty. I am willing to return to my power. And it may be a bit scary, so I'm going to spend some time with this incredible woman as she guides me back to my truth, but I will not waver in my commitment and my devotion. So that's it. That's what we do when you work with an intuitive guide. And everything that the intuitive guide does is as a priestess of non-local intuition. There's no template or formula that we follow after the first session. The first session is a very rigorous template because, as I said, this kind of scattergun approach of just picking up any information that's floating around in the atmosphere doesn't work. It's not helpful or productive. So what I want you to do is to understand that if you go to see someone for this kind of work without a template or a structure, there's infinite amounts of information that are pouring out of you and pouring out of all of the lifetimes that you've lived. And in order for that to be useful for you, there has to be some way of sharing that information that's going to move you from fear to love, which is the work of the intuitive guide. We will support you to become more of what you are, to become optimized. But as I said, we cannot do the work for you. And it's very clear to us when a client shows up and they're not ready and willing. Luckily, we've got mad skills and we're usually able to get everybody over the line. But know that if you commit to work with an intuitive guide, No one is doing it for you. And that they are working in partnership with the infinite, with God, goddess, energy. That is what non-local intuition is. It's not about sitting down with a structured, we do this in the first session, this in the second session, this in the third session. After that first evaluation of your energy body, the non-local intuition will guide your intuitive guide to discover what is most pressing and relevant and vital for your freedom, and she will lean into that partnership with God to support you with those tools, and she'll give you lots of homework, I have no doubt. So I'm going to make way now. There's a few minutes, about 10 minutes, until Shanae will be taking us through, I don't know which part of the method that she will be guiding us through, but whatever she does will be glorious, and I know she'll be looking for volunteers. So please do nominate yourself when she goes live if you would like to receive, because it will be a joyful experience, a powerful return to holiness. And if you have any questions, please do let us know. We love to talk about this work and to showcase it to the world. Mwah. Have a beautiful day.